Hello and welcome to our webinar. Today we are going to learn how to properly plan for a floor heating project. My name is Julia Billen. I'm the owner here at WarmlyYours, and my sidekick here, Scotty Silver Fox. That one I don't get.
I don't either.
So he is in charge of all things technical. So we really do have an expert here. I'm just here for the good looks. And we're going to be walking through this together. But more importantly, we're going to be looking for you guys to ask us questions, because you know what they say, if you don't have a plan, your project quickly turns to
mush.
Quicksand.
Quicksand. Oh,
okay. So we don't want that. That's a sinking kind of feeling.
Yes.
So ask us your questions. We've got an expert here. I know a little bit about the subject as well, and we've got some questions that came in advance, and we'll be addressing those throughout the presentation as well. So stick around. It's going to get great.
So let's take a look at the webinar outline. Why are we here today?
What are we going to be talking about?
We're going to make sure that this first part of your installation goes as easily as possible, because the more work you do here, the easier it's going to be on the back end when you're actually installing the product. So there's a couple things you want to make sure you do correctly, like measuring the area, the correct way to do that, understanding and using the SmartPlan. The SmartPlan is the item that you get back from us once you give us the measurements. And then once you get that all ready to go, we're going to test the product, make sure it's good, and then it gets installed.
So no surprises.
Right, exactly.
Okay, I love that. So that's the first thing that I share with people. They're like, how do we get started? What do we need to do? And I'm like, the first thing you need to do, go in, measure the area.
Yeah, and the thing is with measurements, if you've ever been on a job site, you know that the measurements you take on one day may get changed a month later because the homeowner either wants a larger tub or a smaller tub.
Or no tub.
Or no tub.
Because tubs are not in anymore.
Right. And
it's all about the shower.
Yeah, and those gigantic tubs, sometimes you have a measurement for a tub. They say, we want to make that tub larger.
Right.
And if that tub is taking up more floor space, that leaves less floor space to heat. So that's why it's so important to measure.
And the reason we want those measurements is the floor heating only goes in the footprint of the room. And I think that's important to remember. It doesn't go under any of the fixtures, appliances, and we'll talk more about that. But measurements are needed for the entire area.
Right.
And that's important to us. Sometimes people will just think about a small little area. Oh, just tell me what a 3x5 area looks like. And okay, we can do that, but it's a little bit more complicated that. We want to know about the fixtures in the room, because what if in that 3x5 area there is a floor vent or maybe even a partial wall? We really want to know about those things. The floor heating system also comes with a control. And a lot of people don't really think about, well, we really want to know, where is that control going to be on the wall?
Right. So you just mark the location on your measurements where you want that thermostat to go. That's the start, because that location of the thermostat is where your product is going to begin in that room, and it will be installed on the floor from that spot.
Now, why is it important though? I mean, okay, some people do leave it off. For a smaller bathroom, you could kind of get away with that, but for larger areas, you can't. Explain that to the good folks out there, Scott.
Well, if you put your thermostat sensor over here, where I'm kind of moving our arrow. If you put the thermostat sensor over there, we're going to try to start your product over here. So it goes like this throughout the space and heats all the area you want to. If you decide, hey, I'm going to change the location of that thermostat, I'm going to move it over here by the sink where most people put it,
right?
Then the leads that are non-heating, the part that is non-heating that attaches to the heater.
We sometimes call that a cold lead.
A cold lead, yep.
A return lead.
And those are 15 feet long. So if they are, you always have to allow 5 feet from the floor up to the thermostat and out the wall to wire it.
Right.
So you really want to start your heating product within about 10 feet of where that thermostat is.
So big picture. So if we start big, and then we'll drill it down. But big picture, we want a plan for the entire room. ideally. And I mean, we also want that thermostat location. So those are like the two big things you need to talk about. You need to think about. You need to talk about to your customers as well. And then from there, we're going to be asking for a little bit more information. In the beginning, a rough sketch is fine. If you don't have exact measurements from the beginning, that's fine. And as you shared at the start, things change
Right.
as the project moves along. Fine. We definitely are experts at revisions. But big picture, we want the entire room. We want that thermostat location. Now let's move on to our second slide. There we go. And let's talk about how you're going to be doing these measurements. As you do them, what are a little bit more detailed items we want to think about?
Well, you want to always remember that you never heat under something that's a permanent fixture. So if you have a
Okay.
box bottom cabinet, you don't want to heat under that box bottom cabinet because it's going to trap the heat, and that's against the National Electric Code.
So ideally not under a vanity, and unless it's
the toe kick.
Okay.
Okay,
Talk about
yeah,
that.
we'll be talking
talk
about that. Yeah,
later?
we've got a good slide that
Or it
talks
could
about
be a
that.
hanging vanity as
Right.
well.
Mhm. If you have a suspended vanity that's suspended from the wall or hangs,
Then
you can heat
then
under
you'd
it.
heat under it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just don't want anything that's attached under something that's permanently installed.
A tub, unless it's
like a clawfoot freestanding tub. The only thing you have to worry about then is where the plumbing comes up through the floor, and if they're going to drill
in.
holes to hold the thing down.
Yeah.
So the most important thing is to get us dimensions that are close. The better dimensions you get now means less revisions later.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done a bunch of these floors, and the least glamorous part of putting this floor in is getting the initial dimensions. That is the part that go, that looks okay, that looks okay. You come back with a plan and go, oh, that's not okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you really need to make sure you get those dimensions at some point. We may not need it right at the very beginning for a ballpark, but at one point we really need to know, is this going under this vanity? Is this going under this? You don't want it to go under the toilet. You don't want it to get too close to the toilet ring, the wax ring, because that could be a real problem. And now
melting the ring.
Yeah, melting the ring. You definitely don't want to do that. So you definitely want to mark that plan, get us what the dimensions are, and make sure. And a lot of people, like if they do a basement, one thing they always forget to do in basements are support posts in the basement. So you want to watch out for that, because the support posts, the more posts you have going into your floor, the less square footage is available to heat. So if you just think about that, what's taking up floor space? You're taking away floor space that we can heat by adding things like floor vents, anything like that we don't want to heat under.
And I want to share when I talked about the fact that you're really thinking about the footprint of the room. You really want to walk the room, or have the homeowner walk the room. It's silly, but I literally got in my tub, stepped out of my tub to see exactly where my foot would hit. Because let me share with you, once you step on a warm floor, you never, ever want to step on a cold floor again. So I got into my tub, and then I stepped out to see exactly where my foot hit. I got in my shower. I stepped out to see exactly where so you get it.
Right.
You really do have to walk the room. And that's the one advice that I would give you. It seems kind of, it seems simple, but it's the best way to figure out the true footprint.
Right. And when you're inside that room, you want your feet to not hit a cold spot, because literally, if you do not put heat directly under the spot where you're standing, it will feel cold.
Right.
So you want to make sure that all the areas that your feet hit in that room are going to be warm. And if you say, oh my gosh, I don't have enough heating product here, you just pull it off the edges of the walls to fill the spots where you really walk, because no one ever stands right up against the wall.
I tested that, by the way. I literally did test how far I would stand, from my walls. So I really suggest walk the room.
Exactly.
All right, let's move on. Special areas to consider. We talked already about a wax ring. So we do, we design the room. We always assume where the wax ring is. We assume, we have the dimensions for the area. We ideally have the dimensions for the toilet. We baked into the calculations, the formulas that we've been doing for the last 20 years. we will pull the floor heating away from that wax ring.
Right.
So if we do the plan for you, you're guaranteed we're not going any further than 4 inches uh, away.
Right.
Is that the best way to say it?
Exactly. And I love this picture because it shows a shower. In the old days, we didn't really heat showers.
The old days.
Yeah, but now we do because people love to have the floor nice and warm.
That's another consideration. As you're walking the room, think about, okay, I definitely want to step out of the shower and have that floor heating, but do I need it when I'm in the shower? If this is in a basement, for example, that might be appropriate. If you have a larger shower, I think, you definitely are going to have areas where the warm water is not hitting you and the floor. So for larger areas, or larger showers, I should say, we always recommend that you heat the floor.
Another thing I love about this picture
And
is
we are approved for wet
We're
locations. Wet location approved. Always look for that.
Another good thing about this picture is that vanity. And that's
Yeah,
the perfect
that's
suspended
what we were
vanity
talking
we were
about.
talking about. That's where you can actually heat under it if you like.
Yes.
If that vanity were going all the way to the floor, then the answer to that would be no, you don't want to heat under that. So this is a great picture of a suspended vanity. Some people now have suspended toilets that are wall mount,
I've seen
and
those.
you can go under those also if you want to.
And this is again where I'm talking about walk the room, because I would stand right up against that vanity and I would look at where are my toes hitting. And I know that's where I need the heat.
Right.
Because if I'm standing in front of that vanity for, 30 minutes to look like this, then I know I want my toes warm.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So we talked about the last thing we need to talk about are large pieces of furniture. Can it be done? I do. And I tell you, it can be done. Talk about some of the things where we have people with pianos. We have people who have pianos in their homes. Those are large pieces of furniture. What do you normally recommend for special areas like that?
Well, you have to determine if that thing is going to be in that same spot forever. Because first of all, you want to try to save some money and you don't want to put heat where your feet are never going to reach.
Good point.
So if you have a piano that's going to be in the same spot in that room, and when you move out, you're going to leave it there and leave it for the next person, there's a pretty good chance you might not want to heat under it. You don't want to heat where your feet can't get, unless you're trying to use it for a sole source of heating, but that's for another webinar altogether.
All right.
But you really don't have to worry about too much problems with weight. The heavy item is not really a big deal unless it's so heavy that it would crack the tile. But, we have had very few, I've only been doing this for 11 years and I've never had a cracked tile under anything that was heavy. So
nice.
I really wouldn't worry about the weight. It's just simply, is that item ever going to move?
That's a good point. Yeah. All right. Well, that's all the special stuff I can think of. So let's move on. We're talking about measuring. So we want you to do all that measurement, take all those things into consideration, and then you're going to get something back from us. And it's called a SmartPlan.
Yes. And the better information you give us, the better this plan will be.
The smarter it be.
Yeah. Because if you look at this one, this looks to me like it might be a kitchen and a dining room area.
Okay.
Whenever you are working around objects like some cabinets.
Okay, I see that right
and
there.
And an island. These are very tight tolerances here. Out here, you have a lot of room to mess around. You can move it here, move it there, make sure it hits your feet wherever. But you need to make sure that these constraints are exact, because you can see.
Yeah, that's definitely a kitchen. I see the cabinets all around. That's a U-shaped kitchen, and then you have the island in the middle.
Yeah, and I think this is actually a floor that I went out and helped install. And this design is very tight. So there are varying degrees of difficulty when it comes to doing an installation. If you have a great big square with a bunch of area around the edges that's not heated,
beautiful,
you have a lot of some leeway,
right,
and you can move it to where you need it and pull it away from the spot where you don't. But these measurements in here are very critical, because we need to make sure that we have the right distances there, because if this distance is really only 3 feet instead of 3 feet 3, that affects every single bit of the design here.
Okay, now talk to me. I see numbers, I see arrows. I see a P1, P2. Talk me through some of the things I'm going to find on the SmartPlan that we return to you.
Can I tell you a little bit later on a simpler one?
Okay,
Yeah,
we can do
yeah,
that.
because
All right.
we have a simpler one on the way here.
All right, you're the boss.
But I think the reason
For
why
this hour only.
the reason why this is such a good picture is because you have one side is very, very open tolerance, very easy. The other
Okay.
side is very, very tight constraints.
All
This
right.
is why it's so important to get good measurements, because
Yeah.
if not, you'll be fighting the measurement battle all the way to the day when you go to install that.
Okay. And then the one thing that this is very good for, big picture again, and you said we'll get into some details, but big picture, it shows you exactly where the floor is going to be warm. A lot of people think, well, the floor heating, it'll spread out. Not really.
Right.
Maybe just a teeny bit, but I mean a teeny bit. So you're really looking at a tool that you can use to discuss with yourself or your customer, where is the heat exactly going to be in the room?
Right. Yeah, we've had, when you start with people that have never done this before, they say, why can't I just put a heating set right in the center of the room?
I've seen that happen.
Yeah, and that will heat the entire space. It won't. The heat only travels about 1.5 inches from the wire.
Yeah.
That's why the wires are spaced every 3 inches on the roll. So it's very, very important to keep that in mind. So let's take a look at a little bit how to get to that plan.
Okay.
And then we'll take it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. How do they get the plan?
Very simple.
Because they took the measurements, right?
Yep.
So they have to send it to us, and there's quite a few ways that you can send it. Carrier pigeon. That's one way.
A Game of Thrones would be that, I think, right? Yeah.
But there have many ways for you to submit a plan. You can draw it on a piece of paper, take a photo of it, send it to sales@WarmlyYours. We have online tools, a quote builder where you can just put in some simple dimensions, overall dimensions. We actually got a question like that in the, that came in before the webinar. Jessica M asked, well, how do I just get a simple quote? Just a ballpark figure. And you can go on our online quote builder tool, and that's exactly what that does. And then we have something called a design tool. And that's where you can really get into the nitty gritty, down to 1/4 inch detail of the room dimensions, if not even greater.
And if you want to learn how to do that, we actually have one of our daily webinars that we do every single day here at WarmlyYours. One of them deals with how to get a floor quote by using by using the builder. So the quote builder is really, really great. If you're interested in learning how to use that a little bit better, check out one of our daily training sessions that we have every day here. And one of the upcoming topics, you can check it on our website. We'll tell you when that's going to be addressed. So just join us for that one, and then we can go over that. So
right. So you can email it, the information to us. You can design it online, very detailed, or just a very big picture quote. You can also kind of sketch it and fax it in if you would like to do that.
Yeah, a lot of people I see now are they're making a drawing, they're taking a picture with their camera and just texting it to us or emailing it to us. It's a very, very easy way of doing that.
Perfect. Okay. So now we'll get that plan back very quick, because we know time is money. We know that you're looking to make those decisions quickly, or you want to share that information so that you can fine tune the project, right? So we turn that around in 24 hours. And then from that point on,
then you're ready to rock and roll. So what we're going to do then is we're going to send this to you and say, hey, this is what it looks like. Please, now at this point, please make sure that your current dimensions match what is written here on the plan. Because if they've changed, which they do a lot, they are probably going to change. Please verify that because at this point, you're getting ready now to place your order. We want to make sure you get the right stuff, because you can't, hey, you know what, my floor shrank and now I don't need this much. I'm just going to cut this amount off the end. You just can't cut the end off of the mat.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why we need you to confirm the dimensions, because if you have too little, then you have cold areas. If you have too much, we do get those calls almost on a daily basis. Can I just cut it? You can cut the cold lead, the return power lead all day long. We're fine with that, but you cannot cut the heating element. So there is a degree of accuracy that we need in those dimensions. Like Scott said, if it's slightly too large, maybe you can put it closer to the wall. If it's slightly too small, you know, maybe you
Pull
can
it away from the wall
Yeah.
and get it in the area where you're going to actually walk.
Yeah.
So now that we've told you when to look for your smart plan,
Yes.
we can now take a quick look at the guts.
All right.
of
Give
this.
me the guided tour.
So first of all, you told us where the thermostat is, right?
Okay.
So when you
That's
told us
the
where
T.
the thermostat is, a T in a circle, then that's where the beginning of the mat is. The beginning of the roll is a triangle and the end is a square. So you can
Okay.
see we're not starting the product over here and running it back and forth. We're starting it right here by the thermostat.
That's what you were talking about earlier, that 15-foot return power lead. We're going to do that work for you. You don't have to worry about it, where it's going to begin and end. That's the reason why you want us to do the smart plan.
Yeah, and then you can say, hey, you know what? The homeowner decided to change the location over here. So all you have to do is just let us know, and they haven't changed the floor size.
Yeah, easy
So the
enough.
size is still the same. We're just going to take that same roll and we're going to reconfigure it to start over here in this corner, if that's where the thermostat's moved to.
Now this roll has a beginning, it has an end. Talk me through what's happening in the middle.
Well, you can see the amount of distance we have here. And these are this is a roll that you roll out. You roll it out 3 feet, you cut the mesh, and then you start following these instructions.
This is like a pattern.
Yes. So you lay this pattern out on the floor. When I go out to do an installation, what I start to do.
Give me a tip.
I start to get my tape measure and I get my black magic marker, and then I start measuring 1.5 feet, 1.5 feet, 1.5 feet, 1.5 feet, and 1.5 feet.
Now you're saying 1.5 feet because they're 1.5 feet wide.
Correct.
But
Yep.
the strip, for example, starts at 7 and then it gets
Right.
smaller.
But what I'm doing is I'm going across the room this way to make
I
sure that
see.
all these runs are going to fit.
That's smart.
So I do that. I make sure all the runs are going to fit. And then now I know, okay, good, this dimension is correct.
And then you start with the length.
Then I make sure that I can fit a 7-foot run in here.
Okay.
And I can do a 5'9" run in here. If those are good, then what I do is I lay this out. Here we can see where we tell you to remove 6 inches. There's a 6 in a square.
And that's because you're getting around some type of
Right,
obstacle.
right.
So
There's
you're
the wire
just,
there.
so the heating element is woven onto a mesh and it's rolled up in a roll and it's delivered on site that way in a roll format. You're unrolling it per the dimensions that you see on the smart plan. And occasionally you're actually cutting the mesh, never the heating element. Because what happens if you cut the heating element, Scotty?
It could overheat and fail.
Yeah,
You don't want
it's
that.
probably going to fail. So we're occasionally getting around an obstacle, and we do that by just running with the cable itself. So you just remove the mesh, and we'll tell you exactly where that's going to happen and how much of the mesh to remove.
Right. So we know the cable runs back and forth 1.5 feet each time.
Mm-hmm.
So if you remove 6 inches of mesh, that leaves you 2 runs of cable, which is 3 linear feet of cable. You're going to take that 3 linear feet of cable and fill this space.
Right.
Then you're going to do a 2 foot 6 inch.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have another 6 inches here, points over there.
So that's how you're getting into that little
That's how you're filling
toilet
those
area, the
smaller
water
spaces.
closet area.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Then you run that out, do a cut and turn, and so on and so forth. And it simply winds its way back across the floor till it ends.
Okay. And then one of the things I like to share is, again, we were talking walk the room, walk the talk. Well, one of the things you also want to look at is the entrance to the room. You want to make sure when you step into that room that you're stepping onto a warm floor.
Yeah, but the one thing is you don't want to get it too close to the entrance, because sometimes a bathroom is done first and then a carpet guy will come and do carpeting in the bathroom that it's next to. And those carpet guys love to use transitions.
Yep.
And I've gone out and repaired a few floors where this person got this a little too close,
Mm-hmm.
and the carpet tack was put right into the cable.
Okay, that's a very good tip.
Yep. So try to stay away, remember.
From the transition.
Yeah. Your feet want to be warm, especially when you're inside.
Mm-hmm.
Inside that room, you may have to, like this drawing shows, 2 inches.
Mm-hmm.
That's enough space for that transition to be put in, or a carpet tack strip for the carpeting in the bedroom.
And it is an area that you're traversing,
Mm-hmm.
so not an area you're standing. So while it's very important, it's not the worst case scenario if a portion of that is cold.
Right. And you're better safe than sorry when it comes to that, because you have
Okay.
no idea, because you go out to a house, and some houses, the transition for the carpet is right up against the one side of the entry, or sometimes it's in the middle, but sometimes it's all the way up. You never know in that 4-inch span where that guy's going to put that transition.
Okay.
So you always want to watch out for that.
That's
So
a great tip.
Yep.
All right. Anything else we want to talk about?
Yes.
Flashback for a second.
Okay.
Because at the bottom, we have a lot of great information,
Mhm.
a lot of great information. And we're going to talk about that. You see the one there, bottom left, and then it's got, thank you for pointing to that. So that is an indication of the role that's going to be used.
Mhm.
And it's telling you exactly the SKU. So you can, look at your quote, make sure that you got what you were supposed to get. And then we're going to talk about the bottom portion of this, but we'll do it with a slide that blows it out so that you can see it a little bit better.
Yeah, before we lose that, not only the SKU here, but it tells you what the amperage of it is,
8.1.
and it tells you what the ohms are.
Yes.
Okay, so
and
that's,
you'll talk about why that's
Mhm.
important, right?
Yep.
Okay. Important info on a smart plan.
So
That was a great transition.
It's almost like we planned to put this in here.
No.
But if you look at the bottom of the smart plan, that's where you start getting the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
It tells you what the floor load is going to be. It's going to ask you once again, please verify your dimensions.
Yeah.
It's going to tell you what the operating cost it may be, a pretty good estimate. It's going to review what the total wattage of that particular floor installation is,
Mhm.
what the total amperage is, and it's also going to tell you what the voltage is to make sure that you, the thermostat that you buy does not change 120 volts into 240, and it doesn't change 240 into 120.
That would be beautiful.
It would be awesome. But what it does is simply a switch.
Yeah.
So whatever voltage is sent to it, it sends through. So it's very important that the power you supply to the thermostat matches the power required by the actual floor heating product.
Yeah, so we do put a lot of this information right there on the smart plan for you. Also, along with that is a detailed electrical breakouts for your electrician.
Mhm.
So you've got two trades involved. You have the person installing the floor, and then you have the person that's responsible for making sure there's enough power. Maybe that same person is also wiring the thermostat.
Mhm.
So they need certain information. The flooring people need other information. Most of this, though, is related to electrical. So let's try and walk down. We have that large box right there on the right. You want to point to
Mhm.
that? That gives a ton of information there. Let's start with the recommended breaker size. Why is that on there?
Because it's very important that you make sure that you don't use too small of a breaker on a product that needs more amperage. So you're really only allowed to use 80% of what that breaker is rated at. So it's going to tell you, hey, this is kind of a small room. There's no need for a 20 amp breaker.
Right.
You can use a 15 amp breaker.
Because the amperage for this one is 8.1
Right.
amps.
Mhm. And the most important thing to take away from this, a lot of people don't realize, is the GFI protection for the floor is actually in the thermostat.
Built in.
So you don't need a GFI circuit breaker.
That's a great tip.
Yeah. So please don't put a GFI circuit breaker in and then use a GFI controlled thermostat, because then you can get what we call nuisance tripping.
So what we already know from the breaker size is one, it's 120 volt. Two, we need a 15 amp breaker. And then we can see from there, we can talk about the total amps at 8.1. So your electrician can clearly see, okay, 8.1 amps going to fit beautifully on a 15 amp breaker.
Right. And then wattage is there. What control was sold with the product?
Floor load is a new one. Talk to me about floor load, because we never used to talk about floor loads back in the day.
No, and floor load simply comes from the fact that our new touchscreen thermostats will tell you it'll tell you how much power is used each month.
Yeah, so
But
that's,
you have to tell it what the system pulls while it's on.
yeah,
So it keeps track of the amount of time it's on,
yes,
knowing the amount of watts that it uses, then it calculates the total amount of time.
and it can show you how energy efficient the products are.
Yep.
Based on the information that's coming from these new and improved thermostats. So
And if you don't get it, it's not the end of the world. It's just simply, hey, you were on for 242 hours this month and it was for blah, blah, blah.
yeah, but
And
that's great.
It's good to know.
It's really great information. So the floor load helps you to see how energy efficient the product is, what type of energy you're using. And the really great thing about these thermostats and the really great thing about radiant floor heating is you're only using it when you need it,
Right.
because these are zoned by rooms. Typically these goes, did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard
I'm
it.
East Coast
I
again.
say-
These goes back into the bathrooms. Most of the time, the floor heating is installed in a master bathroom, and it's only used for a few hours a day.
There's no reason to have that thing at 85 or 86 or 89, whatever your
Mm-hmm.
personal preference is, for the whole day when there's no one there.
Exactly. So that floor load's really key for showing how energy efficient the product is. Verified dimensions as illustrated in the plan. You must have thrown this one in because you really do want those dimensions. You want to call attention to the fact that these dimensions need to be accurate. We talked about why. Total watts are there, watts, amps. I think the watts are cool again because you can then break that down to kilowatts, and then you pay a certain amount per kilowatt hour. So again, you can kind of see what the operating costs might be. And we do include that information on the electrical plan. We kind of give you a general idea of the operating cost per hour, and also monthly. Yeah.
So what you also want to do is, if you ever have a question about your system or you need to do some troubleshooting, make sure that you keep your plan, because then when you call us, you can say, hey, I'm calling about this installation plan.
Oh, that IP
blah,
number.
blah, 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 blah. That'll then let us look up exactly, and we'll see, oh, there's your bathroom, blah, blah, blah. We'll know exactly what's going on.
Nice.
So always save the SmartPlan too. Once you're done, stick it with your important stuff and put it in a file and save that.
And I did just want to point out, we show that this room is going to cost 5 cents per hour. So
operating costs right over there.
Right there. Okay. Now, this is something that's rather recent within the last 5 years, in that there are installation underlayments that can be used to install the floor heating systems. We've talked about a roll system. They don't need an underlayment. They're just sort of rolled out, and the fiberglass mesh is cut according to plan. But they're also becoming even more popular are cable products, cable floor heating. And with cable, there's a couple of ways you can install them. You can install them with fixing strips, and you just kind of string it along the room. Some people even just use tape to kind of fix them in place. But what's becoming very popular are underlayments like Prodeso, the first underlayment on the market. So we do offer a Prodeso uncoupling membrane that you can use to string the heating element along in the membrane, and it really does go faster that way. So what you see here, the blue, with the what do you like to call
little
those?
Hockey pucks,
little hockey pucks,
studs that stick up.
Right. So that creates a channel for you to quickly move the cable into those channels and across the room. So this underlayment is installed a little bit differently than the cable.
Yeah, you need to make sure that it's thin setted down to the subfloor. So you're actually going to put the subfloor, get it ready, thin set the subfloor, push this product down into it, and use either a roller or a flat trowel to push it down in there. You're going to pull it up to make sure you have good adhesion. If you do, then you just keep putting it inside the room. And then
we're working on a video with that too.
Yeah. And then once you do that, you can then lay the cable in, and then you're ready to tile. The good thing about this system is you can usually do this in one day.
So yeah, so you can use an underlayment. You don't necessarily have to use an underlayment.
Every floor, but contrary to popular belief, every single floor out there does not require underlayment. So if you have a very strong floor, or your strong is very resilient, it passes all the tests you need to test to make sure that it's a very strong floor and it's not going to crack or fall apart, you can simply use the cable with fixing strips and save yourself some money. You don't need to buy this underlayment.
Yeah, it does add to the cost for sure. All right, so we're going to talk about the underlayment because it's a little bit of a different plan. Remember earlier we were talking about walk the room, because you really only want the heating element where you're going to feel the warmth. Prodeso's different.
Yes, and this one is another floor that I installed, and this was the one where we had a curbless shower.
Okay.
So we had no curb here, so we had two rolls of Prodeso, and it shows us what section each size we need to cut to make it fit. So these were taken out of roll 1, and then roll 2 was one large piece inside the shower. So wherever you have seams, you're going to address that a little bit later, but what you do is you attach the cable and you run the cable through this space. then out into the room, and then you can do however you want to do it. And then once you get the cable laid out, then you put the waterproofing seams over it to make sure at that point you have a waterproof bathroom. So what this bathroom is a waterproof bathroom. These seams have been covered with a cable and then covered with a waterproofing band. The edges have been waterproofed. So literally all the water that's generated in that room, if the perfect example is if the shower drain gets clogged, where does that water go? Normally it would go out into the bathroom floor, then down into your living room.
Not a good scene.
So it just keeps it all here. It's like a giant bowl that the water can sit in. You go, oh my gosh, this thing is overflowing.
Yeah.
Get that thing, get cleared out, and then all that water can go back down the drain.
And the key here is we'll give you a plan for how to install the Prodeso. If you're using an installation membrane, a Prodeso, or any installation membrane, we will give you an actual plan for how to install it. So it's important that you check that plan as well, because the Prodeso will go under
the entire space.
So we'll give you a plan for that. And then
we'll also show you where the inside corners get put and where the Pro Band goes.
So you can do the appropriate waterproofing.
Right.
Brilliant. I like that. And then from there, we will show, a lot of people don't understand, okay, what areas get heated. So we like to show big picture. This is going to be your heated area. Very simple. But from there, you need to get into the nitty gritty, the details of how you're going to install the cable. But at first, this is an excellent tool to, again, be used with your customer or with the homeowner to say, is this, and here it's pretty clear. I don't think there's anything else they could have done, but the shower.
Maybe, yep.
Yeah. Is this the entire area? Is this covering everything you want?
Right.
Okay. So this is, again, big picture. And then what we do is from there, you really need to know how to install it.
Right.
So before we showed you the flex roll, and you rolled that out and you made cuts to the fiberglass mesh every X, right? Here, it's a little bit different.
Yeah. So what it does is it actually shows you how far from the wall you're going to make sure each loop stops.
That's pretty cool.
It's going to tell you how far from the wall that the last cable is going to run against the tub.
That's very detailed.
And it tells you where, once again, the triangle is the start. And that's coincidentally right by the thermostat. So it tells you here, you're going to run it back and forth. And then all of a sudden there's a red dot. That red dot.
Target?
Yep. That red dot matches a white piece of tape on your heating cable. And that heating cable mark is the halfway point of the cable. So you can see when you're doing your installation, you can say, hey, I'm doing this right because my white mark is right around this spot.
Okay.
If your white mark is over here,
you might be in trouble.
Yeah, because you put this too close together.
Okay.
If your white mark is way over here, it means that the cables have been spaced too far apart. So this way you can figure out, hey, I'm doing well or I'm using too much or too little. You don't find that out at the very end. You find out halfway through. So you don't have to
go back.
Yeah. It's much easier to do half the room and pull it back up and start over again than it is to get to the very end and go, I've got 16 feet of cable. What do I do? Well,
call me.
Yeah, that's because the red dot was over here.
Right.
Right. So that's just something.
That's a great checkpoint.
Yep. So that's what you want to look at. And you always get your measurements from the wall to the spot where the loop starts.
Yep.
So that's what that is.
I do remember when cables first came out on the market, that was a big point of confusion. Well, okay, I understand that this is going to be 3 inches apart. I understand that I have to get close to that vanity. I have to stay away from the wall, but how far away from the wall? How close to that vanity? So,
right. Yeah, if you get too far away from the wall, you're going to have too much cable at the end.
So these plans are important for that reason.
Absolutely.
Especially with cable. Okay. What else do you want to talk about?
Well, now we want to talk
about. Do we have
about,
any questions? Do we have any questions?
We have some at the end. I don't think I see any up here yet.
All right.
But we're getting to the fun part. The fun part is the ordering part.
Okay.
So we've done all this tedium. We're measuring and looking and measuring and all that other stuff. And now we get to get the cart full because we're going to order the correct size stuff, the right amount of things. Here's our heating product.
Okay.
Here's the thermostat. Here's the circuit check. The circuit check is the piece that you attach to the cable. And as you're working over the cable, it will scream at you if you damage the wire.
It's a good thing.
So it's very, very important.
My
that
husband
you have-
screams at me all the time, but we'll
it's-
talk later
yeah,
about that.
So besides the circuit check, you have the floor sensor, and the floor sensor is always in the thermostat box.
So the second item, the Inspire Touch, also has included in the box, it has the actual thermostat that goes on the wall, and it has a sensor that actually is embedded in the floor with the heating element, never touching.
Never touching the heating wire.
Yeah, never touching the heating wires. So a little tip there from Scott.
Mhm.
You want to make sure that sensor is put into the floor and that it's about 6 inches into where the heating element is living, close to the thermostat, and that it's never touching a heating element, because then your thermostat readings are going to be way off.
Yeah, and the good thing is we have another one of those daily webinar training sessions that deals specifically with how to install this.
Okay.
So once you watch this, you go, okay, well, I'm interested in seeing this. Let's talk about how it actually gets put in.
Okay.
That's going to be in one of our daily webinars. So
Great.
a lot of people like to order a floor sensor to have as a backup in case the one for, if you're the 1 in 10,000 that it fails, they're very, very low failure
Hmm.
rate. But if the $10 is worth it to you to have peace of mind, then you simply install the floor sensor in the next open loop and you run it up to the back of the thermostat, but you don't attach the second one
No, that would
to
make
the
sense.
to the thermostat. You only attach one.
But I get what you're saying. This is the fruits of everything that you did, all the planning that you put in with the measurements and reviewing the smart plan.
And now you know you're going to get the right thing.
Exactly.
the idea.
That's the key. Okay. I like that. This is your part, buddy. Test, test, test.
Yeah, when you get the product from us, we've already talked about on the smart plan where it tells you what the ohms are and what the amps are and all that other
Mhm.
stuff. If you look here, there's a big white label
Yeah.
on here. This is the heating. This is a non-heating lead. This is what we call the cold lead. And right on that cold lead is a sticker that tells you what the voltage is. It tells you how many ohms it is, tells you what the wattage is.
Mhm.
All that should match what's on your plan. So when you get your plan and you get your product, make sure that the data,
That white
label,
sticker
mhm,
matches exactly
right.
what's on the plan.
And on your rolls, if you get a heating roll, there's 3 of these stickers,
Ooh.
exactly the same thing. One at the end of the roll, one at the beginning of the roll, and one on the cold lead.
So we really want you to make sure that the product that you get is exactly
Mhm. What you ordered.
what you ordered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the last thing you ever want to do is install something that got damaged between us and you. So that's why it's so important to test it first, because the last thing you want to do is put in something that's not working right.
And when you're testing, what you're looking for, you're looking for ohms. You're
Mhm.
looking, and do you want to spend just a moment on
Well, yeah,
ohms?
yeah, because we have a really good picture here. We have, this is a ground, this is the black wire, and this is the red wire. So
Mhm.
right now I know this is a 240 system.
Okay.
Just by looking at this, I know this is 240. So I know I need to be making sure that the electrician is giving me 240 to my thermostat.
Mm-hmm.
So
Smart.
what we
If it were 120, what would it be?
it would be, this would be yellow and this would be black.
Okay.
So what we're doing now is we're testing to see if there's any short in the line between the red and the ground, anywhere in the product.
Mm-hmm.
Then what we'll do is we'll go from black to ground to see if there's any any shorts on that side. And then finally we'll go across the black and the red to make sure that it matches the amount that's on that white sticker.
So the key is we do want you to test it once you get it on site, if
Mhm.
not even before. Every roll, every heating element, every cable is tested 3 times even before it leaves manufacturing. So there's really great QC that's being done, but peace of mind,
Mhm.
always important. Test it when you get it.
Yeah, and once you get, and the thing is, I'm glad you said that, Julie, because you want to make sure you test it before you go out to the
Mhm.
job site.
Always
So,
better.
Yeah, if you get this on a Monday and you're not going to be installing it until Thursday, check it on Monday. Make sure it's good, because if it's not good, we can send you another one
Mhm.
before install day.
Yeah.
So once you test it, make sure it's good, then you do your cuts and turns, you lay it out on the floor,
Mhm.
then you test it again to make sure that you didn't hit it with your scissors or anything like that. Then it's ready to be installed. So you go ahead and install the tile on top. And then finally is you take that ohms reading, the final reading, and give that to the homeowner. Or if you are the homeowner,
Brilliant.
you keep that. put it
And
in
that's part
manual.
of your warranty as
Yep,
well.
Exactly.
Just making sure it was installed and it was installed correctly.
Yes. So make sure that you have every single job that you're going to do, you need to make sure that you have a digital ohm meter.
Yeah.
These are very inexpensive. It's worth the peace of mind. The circuit check is a good tool,
Mhm.
but it's not a substitute for the meter.
All right. I like that. Lots of good information, Scott.
Yeah, just wait till these other ones. We're all full of it.
Literally.
Yeah, well, yeah.
All right. We talked about testing. If there is ever a problem, Warmly Yours is an industry leader. We were the first in the industry to bring on 24/7 tech support. Scotty's very familiar with that. He manages that team. Do you want to talk about why that's so important?
Well, I was taking a shower this morning when my phone rang, so I wasn't able to get it, but somebody else on our team was.
Nice.
So yeah, if you have a question, it's better to ask it, especially installation. Hey, this is what I have. Should I have this? Should I have that? If you give us the installation plan, we can say, hey, what's the ohm supposed to be? What are you getting?
Right.
That's good or bad.
And that's the key. Like you're testing and you're looking at your ohm reading, and then you look at the sticker and you're like, oh, this is off by X percentage. You might want to call in if it's after hours to our 24/7 tech line to make sure, no, that's fine. It's within tolerance, or, hey, we might have a problem there. Let's get that quickly replaced for you. So 24/7, the reason for that is evenings and weekends, people are doing projects without a doubt. And we want to be there to support you for those. Bottom line.
Yep.
So you guys think about questions. While they're thinking, I want you to start thinking about some of the questions we got in advance.
Man, you want me to think?
I do.
All
I
in
know.
trouble now. One of the questions we got from Kathy R.
Okay.
Excuse me, was can we use this under marmoleum?
Never even heard of marmoleum.
Yeah, well, marmoleum.
What is that?
Marmoleum is a type of flooring, obviously, that's like a vinyl product.
Okay.
Similar. It's not exactly the same as a vinyl product.
Is it glued down?
There are different ways of putting it down. I spoke with the actual marmoleum reps at one of the shows.
Okay.
And they told me, yes, marmoleum is fine. We recommend it for electric floor heating. So boom.
But I would assume you would want to put self-leveling for that type of application.
Some of them require, yeah, especially if you're using like sheet vinyl or anything like that, you'd want to check and make sure that that particular manufacturer is good with floor heat. And usually with a sheet product like vinyl, you want to make sure you have a nice flat floor.
Flat, smooth surface.
So we have a great video online that shows exactly how that's installed. You might want to check that out.
All right.
So that's a great question, Kathy. Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, I'm sorry. Just reflex. What else you got?
A question from Tracy. Talking points to reassure clients who worry about the system breaking down after it's installed and under the finished floor.
Oh, well, I mean, bottom line for me is the products are installed in thin set or self-leveling. There's very little that can go wrong once the products are installed. Most of the problems
until the trim guy gets there.
Yeah, until the trim guy gets there. But most of the problems we see, 95% of them happen at the time of installation. And it's why we provide a circuit check that goes, that is actually wired to the heating element so that you will know immediately based on that screaming we talked about earlier when there is a fault or problem with the heating element. So that goes out with every sale that we do. We have that circuit check available. Use it. That guarantees that it is during installation, nothing, there's no problems with it. There's nothing that's been dropped on it. Those are some of the things that we see in the field. So that's, I think, the most important thing for people to understand is that if something is going to go wrong, it's during installation. Someone walks on it with cleats or,
or drops a hammer,
drops a hammer on it.
The number one, the first job I went out to do, I had my trowel, and the first thing you always want to do is hit the trowel on the floor to clear it, to help clean it off. And fortunately, I hit it right between two of the wires. I didn't hit it exactly on the wire. So one thing about that, Tracy, it sounds like you're in the industry. So what you want to do is you want to talk to your tile guys. If you're doing a tile installation and they're putting electric floor heating under tile, you want to make sure that they clean their grout lines as they go. You don't want a guy going back there next week cleaning the grout lines out with a sharp blade. That's
probably one of the big things that we find, which is the guy comes back later, he starts cleaning out the grout lines. He is definitely going to hit a heating element.
And sometimes more than once.
Right. And then you were also, emphasis is you really want to make sure during the installation process that you're very cognizant, you're very aware of this heating element, that it's there.
And they let everybody else there know.
Exactly.
Like if you have somebody working on
Other trades.
drywall in the other part of the room, you'd say, hey, this room is off limits until it's covered.
Yeah.
So,
and then once it's covered, it's in thin set. There's not much that can go wrong, except you wanted to share the trim guy.
Yeah, the trim guy, the number one thing we ask is it tested fine after I put it in. Now it's something wrong with it. Well, what happened is the guy came and he put a door stop in.
Door stops.
Every single time we put a door stop,
get nailed in, get screwed in. Door
trim
stops.
nails in wood trim around the edges of the room.
Yeah.
Sometimes the cold lead runs around the edge of the room.
Yeah.
The trim guy, instead of putting the trim nail straight in like this, he goes like this, and it goes right into that wire.
Yeah.
So,
can you think of any other cases?
Carpet strip guys.
Yes, we talked about
I've fixed those. Clawfoot tubs, the bolts.
Yep.
Drilling holes.
Vents.
Vents.
They'll come back later and say, "Oh yeah, we forgot. We need to put the vent in here."
Mm-hmm.
So those are typically the things that we see after the fact, and usually we can figure out those things pretty quickly, because we usually say, did somebody come back in and do anything? Oh yeah, they came in and they did a door stop.
Right.
So then we know exactly what the issue is.
The good thing is we have tools that allow you to find that exact spot and see it with a thermal camera, and that way you're able to locate the exact spot, lift up the tile, repair the wire, put the tile back down, and then you're done.
And if you're really concerned about these types of issues, go with WarmlyYours for that 24/7 tech support, because we're going to be there 24/7.
We have a question from Crystal.
Crystal is asking, what's the warranty after installation? It's a 25-year warranty. And that's against a manufacturer defect. And it's one of the reasons, Crystal, that we ask you to take those ohm readings, because based on those ohm readings, we know that the product is operational. All right.
Exactly.
And then from there, your warranty is in effect. Now, if something happens later down the road, we investigate those things with you, like we're sharing. Did something happen? Did some tradesperson come back in and do something? And from there, we'll work through it with you. But 25-year warranty.
So Carol with a K, I like that. If a customer directly requests a plan, how does it potentially differ from the information we receive?
It should never differ. Numbers are numbers.
Yeah. So if the room dimensions submitted by you and the customer, they're the same, the smart plans will be the same.
Yeah. If you want your customers to submit the plans, that's fine with us. But numbers are numbers, and we're going to design the smart plan based on those dimensions.
Right. And then the other question was from Jessica, which we talked about, the project planner.
Using our online tools to get a
builder.
quote, or actually using the tools to actually build the not only the quote, but the floor plan as well can be built online.
Yep.
So
thank you so much for the questions, everybody.
Anything else we can help you guys with?
Just let us know.
Yeah, 24/7. Now let's talk about what's coming up. We always we're here every month, the second Thursday of the month, we're here. And the next thing we're going to talk about is how to retrofit a snow melting system in a heated driveway. Why is this important? This is the season for snow melting. Snow melting is a product line that is growing quite strongly for WarmlyYours. A lot of people are very interested in these products now, especially with some of the strange weather patterns that we've been having. A lot of people will do snow melting, but they have to be redoing their driveway. So if you really want to do snow melting systems, but don't plan to redo your asphalt or your concrete, maybe, it's in perfect condition. It's also very expensive to replace. There is a way to actually retrofit it. And so we've been working on this for about 2 years now. And so this is the time for us to give our recommendations on how to make that happen. So join us for that webinar, even just to kind of start to understand about the snow melting products, so that you might introduce those to your customers. Because trust me, especially in the colder areas, people want this product. We have an aging population. Safety is always a concern. And, out there shoveling, picking at ice or walking over it is not the best case scenario.
Yep. So Thursday, September 12th will be.
We'll
for
be
that.
here. Well, I'll make sure. We do have our daily Ask an Expert daily training. Scott, you mentioned that a few times throughout the session. If you want to learn how to use our quote builder tools, we're talking about that every week. If you just want a general overview of how to install. The cool thing about these daily training sessions is you literally, it's you and a trainer, and you get to talk about the things that you want to talk about. Here, we prepared these slides for you. We have very few slides for those presentations, just enough to kind of give us a flow. Other than that, it's exactly you asking us the questions that you need answered. So I love this program.
Yeah, the one I did yesterday was great. A bunch of questions that we get a lot of, and it's great. We have those recordings available too, so
Yep.
if you want to watch those too. But if you want to ask questions, the best thing to do is just join us.
And it's one-on-ones, very personalized. And we always like to talk about what's happening with promotions. We are having 20% off our Environ product line, actually our Easy Mats this month. And those are for under carpet, under laminate, floating wood, very popular applications, especially floating wood. So
Yes.
we wanted to do something to kind of pass along some savings. So just sharing that.
Good to share.
Thank you. And then let us know what you think. We not only want you to critique us and tell us how amazing we are, but we also want to know, what do you want to learn about? Because we will develop those webinars. So tell us what you're interested in learning about so that we can get the material that you want. And hopefully you'll attend some in the future because it's when you suggested.
Exactly. And yeah, the best thing is to say, hey, I'd love to learn about this, because
Yeah.
give us the information that you're looking for, and then it's easy for us to present that. So.
Exactly. And then contact us. If you have any questions, jbillen@warmlyyours.com. The buck really does stop here. I get a lot of email, and I'm wired 24/7, so I actually do answer my email. So email me directly if you have any questions. We have a lot of resources out there on our website. We have great videos with the Silver Fox. And we have a great social media presence on Facebook, Twitter. So if you're into any of that, you definitely should check us out.
Yes, the web is a great place to
You
go.
like the internet?
Yeah, it's the interwebs or whatever they're called. But yeah, join us there.
All right. So thank you guys for joining us. We love doing this. We have a great time, as you can see. But until next time,
Stay warm and
be radiant. All right.
so long, everybody.
You're welcome.
Oh, thank you, whoever that was.